Fuck it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Oh. Hey, football heads. It's your commissioner live tonight. Live action.
Oh, one time only? 8 times only? I don't know. Who knows how many times we've done this now?
We've tried quite a few times. And
we've tried quite a few times just to record regular episodes. This year's been a little wonky. So thanks, football heads.
Weeks. Yeah, we've missed some weeks. So here's a little treat to anyone who's going to be joining us tonight. If not, you're hearing this after the fact. But we always do the show kind of live, right? We don't like versus one take. But if you found this link on Instagram, or you're in the fantasy league itself, or just a friend of ours and you're in here, we appreciate you tuning in tonight. Other than that, here we are, week 10 preview. How you feeling, Mr. Vice Commissioner, at this point in the season?
I'm feeling good. I do want to circle back just to some of the missed episodes, and this is our first time having you back on ever since you've been back stateside. So maybe the homies have missed your lively, spirited conversation about fantasy football. So maybe just sort of welcome yourself back, or let me welcome you back and tell us how it was abroad.
We have to do this again because we recorded last week, but
we did.
For whatever reason, we lost that episode. So buen dia to, todos mis amigos y cada persona del mundo.
Hell yeah.
Qual escuchan, whoever's listening around the world. And there might be some listeners from Argentina. So I'm happy to be back stateside. My Spanish is not great, as you just could hear for yourself. I don't think that made any sense, but that's how you learn. But I'm happy to be back. And I was on a winning streak while I was back. And I don't know if the league is happy when the commissioner is winning, but the commissioner is always happy to be dominating the league. But that's last week. I don't want to live in the past too much.
No, I'm sure other fantasy league members out there, not just in the homies league, but in their own league, if they are listening from another league, kind of feel the same way, where if your commissioner is engaged, and usually a winning record will boost engagement, then it's good for everybody. I think it helps keeps the group chat going. I mean, I've noticed that you've been great on the league manager's note all year long, but especially after a win, that comes out at 9 a.m. the following day. And so I do think that when you are feeling good, it trickles down to the rest of the league. So we all appreciate it.
I try to be consistent with the power rankings and the league manager's note, and at least try to keep things moving. And with that, I mean, we can jump right into the power rankings for week 10 here. And you also notice that I like to add a little bit of wisdom. I did this last year. I do this this year. So the quote that I started the power rankings out with this week is a quote from our very esteemed wizard Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. And the quote is, "It is not despair, for despair is only for those who see the end beyond all doubt. We do not."
God, words to live by.
Think about it. I mean, we're in week 10. There is no despair. Even if you're 2-7, you're not guaranteed a losing record. I mean, we don't know for sure what could happen. We've seen crazy things happen in the second half of the season. So that's just me trying to give a little bit of peace to those who are in despair.
Can I throw out a Vice Commish quote that I heard today that I think applies to fantasy football? It really applies to anything in life, but I really think that this is good. The quote was something along the lines of the most important thing is to make sure that the most important thing always remains the most important thing. And in fantasy football, you can take that as winning the week ahead of you.
1 week at a time.
Yes.
1 week at a time. We've had teams go 7 up, 7-0, and then 7 down.
Yep.
Shout out to Glow Munch, league member in the chat. We see you. Speaking of 7 up and 7 down.
7 up, 7 down. I have a little. Are we officially going into the power rankings?
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
Let's do it. You cue us up, Minister.
Power rankings.
This guy.
Power rankings. We have a new number 12. We have a new bottom feeder. Our number 2, Chun is no longer there. Chun got a second win, almost had the league high. So our new number 12, I've dumped him down.
You just saw him.
We just saw him, and his co-manager Derek, Kirk Thuggins, who now Kirk Cousins is out. So I'd love to see a new team name from them as well. But they've got obviously bigger issues being in the 12th spot. They lost again, and they had spent a lot of their fab last week getting Dak Prescott, who had a good game. They made a trade for Jalen Warren, but left him on the bench.
Yeah.
They put out Devin Singletary and Royce Freeman.
Royce Freeman.
They had Antonio Gibson, and they had
Jalen Warren
on the bench. And if they had put those in, they would have got the win and still went over 100 points. But I just don't have a lot of faith in the front office of that team or in the talent pool, unfortunately. Yes, Justin Jefferson has been hurt. They've had injuries, but that team is a mess.
Yeah, it's tough. I had to play them last week, and I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't biting my nails a little bit, I guess, going into Monday night. They had 2 guys still to go, and I just had Josh Allen, and I had a bit of a deficit. And yet at the same time, maybe it's just because of their overall record, I was like, this is still doable. And I think that if Josh Allen does his job, I should win. But like, it's a bit crazy. It's always a bit crazy.
Well, yeah, and I would say that the power ranking, them dropping to the 12th has a lot less with them doing worse, and it has a lot more to do with Chun getting a big win. Chun scoring 128 points, a huge win for his spirit. I was with him on Sunday when it literally didn't look very good for him. With Odell Beckham got in the end zone, so that was a bright spot. But I'm blanking on his quarterback right now.
His quarterback from last week.
Joe Burrow did good. Jonathan Taylor did good. We're getting blown up in the chat. Yeah, go ahead. Call Andy. I dare you. But he's had a rough go with Bijan Robinson.
There's so much happening right now.
I know. Travis Kelce had a bad game. That's what I was thinking. But regardless, Chun scores 128 points, a league high. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. We were like, is this guy going to break 70? Ever?
Right.
So with Jonathan Taylor's return and some of the other moves he's made a couple trades as well. He's not giving up. This guy was destined for the skunk last year and escaped. He's escaped the skunk every year, and he's the most losing team in the league. And the guy, we just can't get him under a table.
Yeah,
get him in the skunk.
He's Houdini. I don't know how he keeps getting away with it, but he does.
He does. So stay tuned. I mean, he's already crawled out of the 12th spot. Well, who knows how high Chun can climb. Moving on to the 10 spot, I haven't shaken up the power rankings too much because I just know these teams are, who's good and who's bad. 4 and 5, My Little Tony, 108 points, but it feels like he scored a lot more. Jordan Keffler, this win was important for confidence, but he knows these are few and far between, and it could even be his last win of the season. Who knows? There's nothing guaranteed for this team. Let's just keep moving. The new number 9 spot, I have dropped Colin. I keep dropping him because it was only 3 weeks ago you guys were harping.
I know.
Now I got him in the 9 spot. He's 5-4 with a still winning record, but he scored 68 points last week.
Credit where credit is due, Kamish. Nice call.
He's probably, he can upset some teams, but he scored under 70 or under 80 the last 2 weeks, so it doesn't look good for Colin.
No, and I actually want to talk about a few. We'll wait till we get to the teams, but back when Max and I had our episode 2 or 3 weeks ago, a few things that were said on that episode, I feel like we spoke them and well, not like spoke it into existence, but we put these ideas out there into the universe, and then the universe decided to just flip those narratives, because now Lewis has lost 2 games and Blaine has won 2 games. And we'll get to this, but like, we tried to identify some trends and they just have not turned out to be, we needed you, Commish. That's basically what I'm getting
trying
at.
to do my job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I left Matt in the 8 spot, even though he's 3-6. Came down to a weird Monday night. Justin Herbert on Monday night did not do well, but Austin Eckler fans and owners did well. The Chargers defense owners did well. So he ended up going into Monday night looking like he had the projections. Did not pan out, and he lost. He's 3-6, but I still like a lot of the players on Matt's team.
And just as far as our league went, and I feel like every fantasy league probably feels the same, but you always want at least one matchup to still kind of hinge on that Monday night game, or else there's sort of nothing to pay attention to, especially when it's some poo-poo matchup like the Chargers versus the Jets. And so it was kind of fun to see that dynamic between Justin Herbert and the Chargers defense kind of deciding a game there in our league.
Yeah, and even Eckler was, he came out strong, but he kind of had a pause midway through the game, and then he found the capstone touchdown.
Well, and I mean, I know you were at the losing end of an Eckler performance last week. The guy only got, I think, 8 points due to yardage, and he had 2 touchdowns, so 12 points was just from getting into the end zone.
And so folks who have held on to Eckler or drafted him are going to reap the benefits here to finish the season. I think he's finally healthy, and the Chargers know they got to feed him the ball because he's just talented. He knows how to score touchdowns. Into the 7th spot, I left Camille there. I know Camille's been on a trend here. He continues the winning streak. That's now 3 in a row for him, and he's even surpassed his points against in the standings. So he has now more points for than points against, and he still leads the league in points scored. So look for him. He's making a charge. The playoffs are certainly still there. This is a make or break for Camille, and he's certainly trending in the right direction.
Agreed. Camille is, it's one of these teams where just because they had a slow start to the season, we marked it as uncharacteristic because we thought something like this could happen. And here it is.
Yep, here it is. Time is the great equalizer. Something I've said earlier in the season. A lot of people say, man, I'm just getting screwed. I'm scoring more points than anyone, but I haven't gotten the wins. Just hold faith. Don't do anything too desperate. Even if you spend $100 on Jerome Ford, hang on. It's going to even out. You're going to string some wins together. Then we'll move to the 6th spot. And this is one I flipped the 9 and the 6 in the power rankings from who is sliding. Who's Tank Bigsby is now who was Tank Bigsby.
I love it.
He knew when to jump ship. He got rid of Tank Bigsby because that's why I asked the question during the draft when he drafted Tank Bigsby. I'm like, is this a made up? This isn't even a real person. Why is he on your team? He's never going to get the ball. He finally drops that. Has the guts to drop his namesake, but he picks up another tank. We can't escape these. There's tanks everywhere.
Yeah.
Whoever you look at is now a tank. He is the ultimate fantasy football name for a player, is Tank.
And Tank Dell is the tank who we are referring to. I think it was maybe week 2 or week 3. I was going against Blaine, and I picked this guy up just to try to take some of the tank energy, and then he got hurt, and bye week started happening, and I had to drop him. There's no better landing spot for him than Blaine. So I'm so happy that he is now on Tank. He's just on Tank's team.
And I think the rejuvenation or rejuvenating win is really encapsulates what this meant for Blaine's team. Not only did Tank Dell, for some reason, Tank Dell scored a lot, but also the whole shakeup in Vegas has been great so far after 1 week for not just the team, but for Josh Jacobs owners as well, because Josh Jacobs has a good game, more akin to what you would expect at that draft position. And then his boy Stephon Diggs in Buffalo had a wonderful game and an amazing catch and run against the Bengals too. He spun out some tackles, got a huge chunk of yardage. So this was like a team where it's like such a vote of confidence. I think for who was Tank Bixby, our very own Glow. So I move him up into the 6th spot. I could see him sneaking in, but I think him and Camille are really going to be battling for that sixth seed.
Right. And it just has been cool to see Blaine kind of right the ship here the last couple of weeks ever since. And now, maybe us talking about it on the podcast did a little bit of work to kind of light a fire, and
we like to think that.
We like to think so, but at the same time, like when you are in that position and you have the freedom to sort of just mix up the lineup and plug in some new guys, it's a freeing feeling, and so I'm happy that he's found that kind of nirvana right now.
Andrew says, who will Tank's Biggs be? And that's why we don't let you on the show. Okay, moving on. Top 5 has not changed.
Can we talk about Andrew's YouTube profile pic actually for a minute? What is going on here?
He's like 15 years old.
Is this the first time you went to Tacoma Beach Park? What is going on here? That's
before he ever drank a beer. Huh. Top 5 hasn't changed. Number 5 is Lou. He's 5-4. He was on the losing side of Chun's big win. Mm-hmm. In another weird game for Lou. I know, I'm pretty sure in his league he's eliminated. I don't know if he's eliminated tight end, but definitely defense, special teams, and kicker are gone.
Interesting.
Defense and kicker are gone in his league, and so the big reason for Chun's win, beyond Jonathan Taylor, was the Colts defense scoring 27 points. And I know when I beat Lou, I had scored like 30 points. So another tough one for Lou. He's a veteran. He knows that this happens ups and downs. But also another weird thing about his game, Lamar Jackson in a blowout against the Seahawks only scores 11 points.
Yeah, 37 points for the Ravens as a team, and Lamar does not pass for a touchdown.
Really strange. So, but Ramondre Stevenson has a game of his year so far, scoring 20. Still, I don't think you can really trust Ramondre or the New England going forward. So interesting. We'll look for Lamar. It's not like Lamar had a bad game. They were handing the ball off and utilizing other weapons. So
right.
I kept Lou at the 5 spot at 5-4. I kept you at the 4 spot, and I'm sure there's an argument. I was teetering, thinking about moving you up to the 3. The reason I'll tell you the reason I didn't is just because of Christian McCaffrey is still on Bobby's team.
Gotcha.
He was on a bye. I just feel like you have CMC. That alone puts him higher than your team. But a case can be made for you to rise. You're 6-3 in the standings. You're actually tied with me in second here. I got you on points for it, but you're also very hot, coming off 3 wins in a row now. But like you said, you had to sweat it out a bit on Monday night. Had a lot of fun with Taysom Hill, though, this week, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I mean, we can just go into my team next now, I guess, because I am 3rd in the power rankings. But yeah, there's just
fourth in the power rankings.
Oh, 4th. Okay, yes, I'm 4th in the power rankings, 3rd in the standings. Looking at it, I've scored more points than Bobby on the year, and I've had more points scored against me on the year than Bobby. I understand that his team probably does pack a more powerful punch just because of some of the headliners that he can dole out there on a week-to-week basis. But at the same time, I've been pretty consistent in scoring 120 plus the past couple of weeks. So, I mean, just personally, I feel great about that. I've only scored five less points than you on the year. And so I feel really good about that when I think about how good your team is. And then, just the way that I'm doing it, I love this team. Like I let go of a lot of emotional attachment as soon as Nick Chubb went down, and just thought that like, this is going to be a year where we grind and we scrap and we try to have fun. And so when something like Dallas Goedert's injury happens last week and now he's going to be on IR, and I look at the fact that I already have Taysom Hill, and now it's like, okay, cool. Now we just get to ride this hot hand, and we're playing Taysom Hill in the tight end for the foreseeable future. And I love it. I live by the sword, die by the sword.
Well, your managerial style with the lineup changes and the waiver wire additions and all of that, even your draft, I mean, certainly speaks to the scrappers, very scrappy,
Mhm.
and it's worked for you. And that's kind of the mentality you have to have in fantasy football because there's always injuries. And it's also kind of, I mean, how freeing is it? You're kind of speaking to you kind of get freed up when you have a big injury like that, or you
Right.
have someone else go down. You're like, oh, like I normally wouldn't play Taysom Hill this week. Or for me, like Zach Moss is a guy who's been really good, but no one's really playing Zach Moss because he knows he's in a handcuff position in Indianapolis. But if I was more desperate at running back, or if someone's more desperate at running back, and you just kind of throw in whoever you like last year, you throw in Tua Tagovailoa, you don't know how he's really going to do. You throw in CJ Stroud, you don't know how good he's going to be, and then boom, these players go off for you.
Yeah.
It's kind
I
of
mean, same with Gus Edwards, right? The last 2 weeks I've played Gus Edwards, and I think that he's had something along the lines of like 25 or 27 total touches, and 5 of them have been touchdowns. And so, like, do I expect that to continue? No. But when like lightning strikes and you have one of those guys in your lineup, it is just really fun. It reminds you why you love this game.
yeah, and they wouldn't have been your first choice, but
Right.
your hand is forced, and then it pays off. So that's
Right.
really nice. So yeah, I was talking about Bobby is number 3 in the power ranking.
There we go. Yep.
He's 5-4, but he's definitely limping at this point in the season. And here's a different managerial style who doesn't make a lot of moves. He kind of tries to ride his draft, and I've been harping on him. His wide receivers are not good, and he didn't make the right moves this week. T. Higgins, who was his first wide receiver drafted, was left on his bench with 15 points. The guy needs to try to figure out how to find some wide receivers. There's certainly been guys like Tank Dell on the waiver wire that he could have gone after and just hasn't. Obviously, he is a new father, so there's one reason perhaps, but nothing's more important than this fantasy football league, and you should all remember that. Moving on to number 2. I'm 6-3. I was a head case with the dropping Zach Moss, picking him back up, dropping Dak Prescott. I wanted to stick with my lineup, and I'm in the 15% of CJ Stroud owners who started him and still lost. 85% of people who played CJ Stroud last week won the game. I did not. I blame DK Metcalf and the Seahawks when I should have played Deontay Johnson or Michael Pittman. I even had in there as well. DK has 1 catch for 50 yards. The Bills defense has 0 points on the road against Cincinnati. So wasn't enough to get me the victory. And that'll bring us to our number 1 team. He's still on top, and he's still speaking nonsense in the comments. The Andy Stack.
Yeah, 7-2 now. I mean, he's 1 win away from clinching a playoff spot.
Yeah, and I know in your league, in a separate league, he's undefeated in League of Thrones, 9-0.
I mean, that's news to me. I'm sorry, League of Thrones members. I'm being a terrible commissioner in that league this year.
Wow. Oh, Blaine, we got some comments. Blaine, a little delayed. Beat it the guy without a kicker. Yeah, you played your guy without a kicker and you got the win. Congratulations. And Andrew simply says number 1. And he's been number 1 all year, but I'll tell you what, can't win the championship during the regular season, my man. And we've seen a lot of number 1 seeds. I don't know if Minister wants to hop in here, but we've seen a lot of number 1 seeds fall. And weren't you a number 1 seed last year?
I don't know if I was a number 1 seed last year. I may have been during the regular season. But I mean, I still made it to the championship, and so I feel great about that. But very rarely, have we seen a team go wire to wire. I don't think we've ever seen it. We'd have to go back and look at the history books, but I don't think that's ever been the case for any of my championships, certainly.
Yeah. So take that as you will. Still a wonderful debut for Andy. We should probably, instead of having Andrew call in, we should just call Red.
Andy's
Minister
hold
Media,
on. Andy's trying to come in right now.
Hey.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Am I coming through?
No, we can't hear you.
I'm not coming through.
No.
No.
No, you can hear me.
No, I can't
Come
hear
on.
you.
Yes,
It's
we
terrible.
can hear you. We can hear you.
No, we can't hear you. How's it
Oh,
going,
man.
Andy Stack?
Number 1 feels good, boys.
You've been
Feels
there for
real
how long
nice.
now? Aren't you used to it?
You know,
Okay, well,
you never
let me,
get used to the greatness. You just,
Okay.
you just keep absorbing more and more.
Here's my question. Now that you've probably secured a playoff spot at this point. You're the first team to 7 wins. If you get to 8, you're like locked in.
Yeah.
Are you at all worried that perhaps you're using up some good fantasy juju, some good luck too early on here? Or do you think that this is sustainable throughout the playoffs? Is there another team maybe that you're worried about, like they're getting stronger and I'm just kind of staying where I'm at? Like, how are you feeling?
Right now I'm in that like fortunate spot where the only weeks I have to worry about are 15, 16, 17. And I'm pretty close to not having to worry about 15 either if I get that 1 or 2 seed. So it's just like stacking the lineup for 2 weeks. And then, I've got a couple bye weeks coming up. Pretty excited about those. Unofficial bye weeks. I think, Tim, you got one of those coming up in your schedule too.
Careful, though,
I'm just looking forward to the end of the season.
Chun this week. Is that
We
what you
just
mean?
saw Morgan put up a $126 or whatever it was. So
He
careful.
did, yeah. But no, that's not worried about the juju. None of that. Just planning on getting those last couple of weeks tied up, make some money here for the Andy stack, and be back next season.
Now,
just on the bag.
Paid the league due for the team. If you win, though, you have to split that with your owner.
But it's we got a fine contract going. I don't think Red even anticipated winning. But no, it'll be split. It'll be split up for sure.
Tell me right now, does Nick know you're in first place?
I don't think he is. I haven't talked to him in a few weeks. He's checking, I'm sure.
Okay.
First couple of weeks, he was much more involved. I played him in your league, I think, last week, and he put up like 34 points.
Yep.
It's like didn't set the lineup at all.
Typical. Well,
all right. I'm gonna go back to being a viewer.
From you, that's awesome. Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Commenting.
Bye.
Well, that's just the kind of overconfidence we love to hear from the number 1 seed. That's perfect.
I mean, I will say I do think that it is probably he might be putting the horse before the cart a little bit here.
He's looking at week 15 already.
The cart before the horse. I think it's
he's looking the whole month ahead here.
Yeah, like that is definitely maybe doing a little too much, but at the same time, like it is not too early to be looking at those week 16 and 17 matchups if you think you're going to make the playoffs. Like we now know which NFL teams are probably not going to be putting their best foot forward in December and in January. So if you do have some matchups against like the Broncos or the Panthers or some of these teams at the bottom of the league,
I'm giving them a hard time. I've done the same thing, especially around quarterbacks and defenses.
Yeah.
This is how I won it last year, is looking at the match, because I feel like defense, special teams, and then quarterbacks are the most influenced almost by their matchups and who they're playing. So certainly taking a look at that, but
yeah, like if you can find a team that's playing the Cardinals and the Jets and the Panthers or something like that, 3 out of the last 4 weeks of the season, like I don't care if that's the Tampa Bay defense or some defense that's just been like middle of the pack or whatever, they're going to perform well when it's needed most.
Definitely. So that rounds out the power rankings. Not a whole lot of shakeup, but there has been some, and I guess we can move into recent activity and acquisitions. And I do want to make an announcement and a reminder that our trade deadline is Monday, November 13th. And we've had some trades happening. We had mentioned the Jaylen Warren trade for Drake London a couple weeks ago. And then I made a trade with Chun last week or yesterday.
Yeah.
It was yesterday.
You dealt the aforementioned DK Metcalf, got rid of him.
I traded DK Metcalf for Najee Harris. And kind of similarly frustrating players in a way, like high talent, but hasn't reached their potential ceiling. My reasoning is, should we talk about the Seahawks?
Let's do it. Minister, cue us up. What's that? Do you hear something, Tim? Max, do you hear something?
I don't hear shit. Max is taking a bathroom break.
Well, anyways,
Max
it's
is
time for
fired.
Hawk Talk.
It's Hawk Talk. The reason I'm down on DK is because he hasn't been healthy, and Geno Smith is looking a lot like the Geno Smith people predicted he would be last year.
Or just the
And-
Geno Smith that he was for the first 10 years of his career.
Or that. And so we're looking at sample size over this guy's whole career, and it's more likely for him to perform as he's done for the majority of the year rather than his one standout year last year. Offensive line hasn't been healthy for the Hawks. And similarly, last year, they were really predicted to be really shitty and they overperformed. This year, expectations were sky high, like Super Bowl predictions. And I was thinking that's way too much. I think they're going to have a similar type of team as they had last year, kind of scrappy wild card. And that's what we saw. And they just got their asses kicked by a very good Ravens team on the road in Baltimore. A lot of problems on offense, but also a lot of problems stopping the run against the Ravens.
Well,
Andrew
and just
Yeah.
I mean, just same old, right? Like I know Mark Andrews, he didn't get into the end zone, but he had a big week. Just the same things over and over. And with a healthy defense, you're hoping that they can maybe start to cover a tight end across the middle. Maybe you can start to do this. Maybe you can start to do that. And those hopes and those wishes just haven't seemed to come true yet. If your league trade deadline has not passed yet, I would definitely look to do something similar as to what Tim was able to do by offloading DK Metcalf, because we talked about this on last week's episode, which once again, we apologize for not being able to get that out. But on last week's Hawk Talk, Tim and I sat down and we looked at the remaining schedule for the Seahawks. So I do think that probably most players will have a good game this week at home against the Washington Commanders. But then, we talked about making that playoff push. Here's what the Seahawks face basically up until the new year: at the Los Angeles Rams. Then there's a game in Seattle, but it's against the Niners, at Dallas, at San Francisco, home to Philadelphia, at Tennessee, home to Pittsburgh. That's your playoffs through the championship. If you were rostering a Seahawk player, maybe you feel somewhat decent in semifinals week on the road in Tennessee. And then maybe if you get to the championship, you feel okay about playing a Seahawk player at home against the Steelers, even though they have a good defense. But like, especially those 4 weeks of San Francisco, Dallas, San Francisco, Philadelphia, I'm not going to, if I had a Seahawk player, I'm not starting him. I'm just not doing it. And so you've alleviated that headache. And conversely, going back to your trade, and we can talk about some more Seahawks stuff here in a minute though, but the Steelers have a great schedule coming down the stretch. So hopefully Najee gets, stronger as the year goes on.
Yeah. I mean, other trends back to the Seahawks real quick before I'm very excited about, I like the trade a lot, but not only is DK not been healthy and his targets are going down, JSN is now getting more involved in the offense. So it kind of hurts the value of also Tyler Lockett and DK when JSN is now spreading those targets around. Also an interesting trend for Ken Walker owners, Charbonnet is getting more touches. And I guess this kind of relates to why I'm excited about Najee is we're in the second half of the season now. And especially with running backs, what we're seeing a trend in the NFL is more running back by committee. And we're seeing kind of one running back maybe getting, they're riding them out as much as they can in the first half. And then that spell back starts to remain fresher as the first guy either just loses steam or gets injured. And so maybe we're seeing Charbonnet actually getting more of a true 50-50 split with Ken Walker, or maybe even Ken Walker might not be healthy. He's moving up over him. You kind of see that maybe in Detroit where David Montgomery was super strong to start. And now Gibbs is overtaken. So I'm really hoping that Najee for so many years, his first 2 or 3 years was the every down back and can catch the ball. Now they have Jaylen Warren to be that spell back who looks good and is going to remain his role. But Najee's been able to remain fresh. And this is the time of year, we're in November, December, when the running attack starts to separate these playoff teams, right? We're running the ball now. We're playing good defense. We're controlling the clock. So I'm hoping that that's the case for Pittsburgh as well. But as far as the Seahawks go, they got to right the ship here. They still have 2 times they have to play San Francisco. And I really want to address the elephant in the room about the Seahawks. Where are you at with Geno Smith?
My thing with Geno Smith and with any quarterback, honestly, in the NFL is that if you're not going to take care of the ball and you're going to put your defense in positions to where their back is up against the wall and they're having to win games for you repeatedly and to keep you in games because of turnovers. There's other quarterbacks out there who don't turn the ball over. Their defense keeps them in game, and it's complementary football. Right now, the Seahawks are not playing complementary football. It is the defense, and they're getting strung out, and they're on the field for too much time of possession. And so Geno has to either take care of the ball, or much like how we are seeing running backs go kind of by series or by halves almost. Other coaches have talked about doing this, and I don't think Pete's the kind of guy to do it, and I don't think that this would send the right message. But like, maybe you just play Drew Lock for a couple of series if this continues to happen. And now, or it's one of these, we have seen this before where like, if it is maybe a 2 or 3 turnover first half for Geno, then you just bench him at halftime and Drew Lock plays the rest of the game. And then Pete deals with the media, and he's always been pretty good at that. And so he addresses it during the following week, whatever he has to do. Says that Geno is still our guy, but like, he just needed some time. And maybe you go that route. And then if Locke can put good things on tape during his time in in-game action, then you have an actual quarterback controversy. I don't think we're quite there yet, but we're certainly not getting further away from it. We're getting closer to it.
Definitely getting closer to it. And I mean, the whole feeling last year was that we traded for Drew Lock in the Russell Wilson trade, and he was, kind of has this higher ceiling. He's got higher potential. Geno Smith was like, well, we know who he is. And now he's kind of reverting back to who everyone thought he was, and he's not really the Pro Bowl player. I feel like his demeanor has changed a little bit this year as well. I mean, there were times last year he was really fired up, and, Pete had to do the whole calm down, Geno, stay centered. But I liked seeing that kind of energy and fire from Geno. He looks lackadaisical. He looks lethargic out there.
Yeah, too comfortable.
Too comfortable. He's thrown an interception, and it's like there's no expression on his face. There's no accountability. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, well, shit, I didn't have enough time, or people didn't get open, or I mean, I'm not seeing leadership from Geno. And when we did see Drew Lock for one series earlier this year, he looks sharp. I don't know. Yeah. I know it's a very small sample size, but he didn't look nervous out there. It wasn't even, a blowout game. It was a competitive game. At the end of the half, he throws a good ball to Noah Fant, who makes the play down the sideline. So Drew Lock looked more than capable and comfortable. I would love to see Drew Lock get in there. But hey, maybe it's too soon. We'll find out how the Seahawks respond from that ass whooping they just had this next week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to call this game like a trap game. Now, had they have beaten the Ravens last week, you could call this Commanders game upcoming a trap game as far as like, okay, now we're starting to look ahead to that real gauntlet of a schedule. But like, they better show up and beat this Commanders team. They are a beatable team. Seahawks at home are always going to be better than they are on the road, even though they do travel well. It's just one of those deals where the wins are going to be hard to come by here over the next 6 to 7 weeks. And so you have to win the games you have to win the games you're supposed to win.
Yeah. Great. We had a couple comments come in before we get into recent activity. Derek. Okay.
Yeah. These are directed at you here, Commish.
Yeah, I know. Look, you got to realize, I'm lying to you. Okay. I'm a liar. You don't get to collect. I told you as an incentive, get your $10 fab budget, but I lied. You fell for it. You're in the chat. You're watching us. I appreciate your participation.
Derek, hop in here. Derek, let's talk to you about the co-manager position. If you want to come in the way we just brought Andy in.
Yeah, can we get Derek in here? Actually,
yeah.
That'd be great.
We'll
Is
see.
Max,
We'll see.
Is Max even is our minister guy even here? Did
He's
step out?
he is now. I got him. I can see him on the screen. He's down there. Yeah, he's giving me the thumbs up right now. I don't think you want to hear from him, Tim.
I don't.
He's just, I don't know. We'll see. I think we might see him here in a minute if Derek comes in, especially. But anyways, recent activity. We have oh, here we go. Derek is in the chat right now saying I'd love to come on. Max, minister, make this happen on the back end while I go through these the offer report. So what happened was we had 4 players, 4 positions get money spent on them over the waiver wire. And we have to start with who was Tank Bigsby, adding Keaton Mitchell, the Baltimore running back, who everyone that watched that Seahawks game got a good look at last week. He was electric, came on the field to spell Gus Edwards and Justice Hill, and looked like the most explosive out of the 3 backs. Ended up with over 100 yards and a rushing touchdown. And you can just already see how that sort of running style could complement an option quarterback like Lamar. And I know he's trying to become more of a pocket passer and still needs to become more of a pocket passer. Lamar's too inaccurate for the Ravens to actually win a Super Bowl, in my opinion. But I digress. Keaton Mitchell looks like an explosive running back for that offense, who has always kind of gone running back by committee. So you could definitely see them implementing him a lot more in the coming weeks, especially like between the 20s. I think when they get in the red zone, that's still going to be, that's all aboard the Gus bus and maybe Justice Hill in there a little bit. But this guy, Keaton Mitchell, looks great. So Blaine goes out and bids $39 on him, gets him. The only other bid that was in for Keaton Mitchell was from Ball Hogs, and that was at $11. So did Blaine overspend? You'd have to ask him. And if he's listening, maybe he can jump into the chat. But he got his guy. He wanted his guy, and now he's on the squad. So kudos for that. And then you have the Andy Stack playing kind of the defensive and special teams carousel, adding the Raiders defense for $4 while dropping the Falcons defense and special teams. Kirk Thuggins gets their 40th quarterback in the last 3 weeks and gets Joshua Dobbs for $3. Probably and now I know he wasn't supposed to play as much as he did last week, but honestly, probably the quarterback who they should have picked up last week anyways, just because when you do have Justin Jefferson coming back, you want to get the guy who's going to be throwing him the ball. And Dobbs has been good and serviceable all year long in Arizona. So he is now on the team. Maybe there's a rebranding that gets made with some wordplay on Joshua Dobbs' name, because he is now at the helm for them. Drops Will Levis for him, so he's back out there if people need a streaming quarterback. And then Bobby gets Baker Mayfield for $1 to run his squad.
That's the one move Bobby makes.
Oh, and Blaine is in the chat. He's saying, I was spending one more than Ball Hog's available fab because he needed an RB and has been known to blow a full load. So great strategy.
Brilliant
Great strategy.
And you were right in seeing that, Ball Hogs was going to bid on him. So, yeah, well done. I mean, I haven't figured out quite how to use the fab. Obviously, this year was a wash with the whole Zach Moss debacle, and I think I'd love to hear from Derek if he can get in here, because I don't know.
He is in here.
There he is.
Yeah.
Oh,
hey,
repping the Silver Streams podcast as well.
Love it.
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard.
thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just talked about your recent acquisition of Joshua Dobbs. We've been giving you a little bit of a hard time, and now the Kirk Cousins injury, you hate to see it, but it happened. Yeah. And now you were reeling for a little while, trying to figure it out. Do you feel like you've come to was this finally a soft landing? Where are we at?
Now be careful how you answer, because your owner is listening. He's watching.
Yes.
Full confidence.
I have been in so many HR meetings this season. No. It's been, look, this coming into this league has been a big learning experience. Max, I think when he and I talked about me sort of taking the coaching position for the team this year, he felt like he was going to be more hands off, but I feel like maybe he kind of got a little bit of FOMO when when the draft happened and stuff, like being there. So there, full transparency, there was a little back and forth, like a little confusion about like who like was this full control for me, and I was happy to like with either way. I wasn't like, you told me I could control the team, so I'm controlling the team kind of thing. I just wanted to know, and learning how this league drafts was a big thing for me. After the draft and kind of seeing how hindsight's always 2020. So seeing how the year has played out, obviously I would love to go back and change that 101 pick. But we're here now, and I feel like, we've kind of made moves that we're trying to stabilize the team. And I feel like now with the players that are showing up and starting to produce, I feel like maybe we've hit a point where we're going to like see a little bit more stability with the team. And I don't feel like we're, scrambling to make decisions. I think the Dobbs thing was like really one of the final things that we really needed to solidify. We've got Dak Prescott in there who, his last couple of weeks has done really well. So we'll see where we go from here.
Yeah, I mean, those are two quarterbacks, so you can certainly roster both of them and kind of just play the matchup if bye weeks allow you that flexibility on your bench and everything like that. So you say that you feel pretty good about where things are, though. Now, who are some of the players that have you feeling that way? Because looking at your lineup here, there's certainly guys who I would like to have on my squad.
Yeah. Jaylen Warren, the trade that we made with Chunderella Story for, I believe we traded away
Drake London.
Yes, that's right. That's who it was. I felt like that was a pretty good move for us. London was a player that had some pretty good production, but we felt with the wide receivers that we had at the time, we would be able to get by with that, and running back help was really what we needed. With Gibbs's slow start to the season, investing big draft capital on him. But that's starting to pay off now, which is really good for us. Gabe Davis was one that is very hit or miss. Would have loved to see him get a little more production this last week. But picking up Jonnu Smith, that was a good one for us. Able to pick him up off the waiver wire. I know you guys were talking about Tyler Lockett, and we keep crossing our fingers that he's going to get some production and everything. And yeah, hopefully with this Washington game, maybe we'll see a little bit more love spread around with that one. And Singletary, we've kind of seen like with him on the team getting a little bit more action between him and Dameon Pierce. And
he just hasn't been efficient. I mean, he has definitely gotten the attempts, double-digit carries in his last 3 games that he's played, and multiple targets, but he's just not converting into big point totals.
The opportunity is there. So
there's volume there, but I think production-wise, Antonio Gibson, Jaylen Warren, Gibbs, I think those are your running backs. And I know I can have a sharp tongue on the power rankings.
You can, man.
And I feel bad because you were not set up for success. Your owner was not clear with expectations, did not help you on the draft, and so I'll throw you a bone. It's also, I don't know if you've used Fab Budget before. Is that anything?
This is my first season using Fab.
Yeah,
so
I think we're still trying to figure it out. So you spent $17 on Dak and then $17 on Will Levis, and I think that was
that one was funny. I tried to like rank those in the app, like where you can go like prioritize your waiver picks, but for some reason it wasn't letting me change that. And then when I tried to like cancel the Will Levis one, apparently it still sat in there and went through. Because I was like, Dak's my number one. Like, if I can pick somebody else.
When we play Magic on, I don't know.
That sounds like a commissioner issue, right?
Yeah, let me finish. You go back to the shout-outs.
That's the commissioner.
Get out of here. Get away. I was about to say, when you come over the other day, tomorrow or Friday to play Magic, we can go over the fab budget and we can look at
Sure.
the waiver adds and additions and whatnot. I don't know. Neither of us have any more fab money, so it might not
Yeah.
work. But,
Yeah, we
there's
just spent our
whatever.
last 3 picking up Dobbs.
Yeah. Well, good pickup.
Yeah.
I'm glad you came on. I have more confidence in you. And if I, if I was God, some of these league members think I am, I would give you full control.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this too. I mean, Justin Jefferson practiced in a limited fashion today. So whether or not you can string together some wins here and actually make a run at potentially the last playoff spot, depending on what happens to some of the other teams, or
Sure.
even just play the good old spoiler, like the squad is looking up.
Look, Max and I
Even
just
though I
talked
drop-sheeted well.
recently after our last recording of Silver Screams, and I made a promise to him that I would do my best to get us out of the bottom matches should we miss the playoffs. I know there was a big logjam like record wise just last week, so we were really hoping to pull off. I know we had some close games these last couple of weeks, and I was really hoping to pull off at least one win to kind of like get up there and get in the mix with the logjam right there in the middle, and hopefully, squeak into at least into contention, like being considered at the end of the year for the playoffs. So,
I mean,
but
right now,
we've still got weeks
this,
to go. So,
if the playoffs started today, the 6th seed would be a 5-4 team, and you're only 3 games back.
That's a great point. It's a great point. You
And
and
we-
three games back. Yeah.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks to play. Anything
Yeah.
could happen.
hey, we're
Can
not
I-
hanging our heads yet. I'm
Yeah.
here to learn. I'm here to have fun, and I've enjoyed this league. I want to thank you, Commissioner, for allowing me, a co-ownership spot, and I'm happy to be here.
Of course. We're happy.
All right, we're taking Derek off here. We don't need to be thanking him.
Is Max is eating something? He just said that.
Yeah, he stopped mid-bite to like breaking news.
Well, I'll throw it back to the Gandalf quote. It's not despair, right? We don't know what's going to happen beyond all doubt. So there's still hope for you. I'm so glad that you came on. Shout out to Silver Screams podcast as well, another podcast on the Chatter Network. If you're
Catch us every Monday.
a horror buff, you love horror films, check it out. Derek's a great host there. So Derek, thanks for popping on.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Eric.
Another league member popped into the league chat here. Father Bobby.
Father Bob.
Damn it, Bobby hopped in. Yeah, I mean, I love that he's in there. I don't know if he caught us earlier, but good evening to you, Bobby. Go get yourself a real wide receiver one. All right.
I'll tell you what. I mean, this not that he's a wide receiver one, but just to kind of wrap up recent activity, there's a bunch of free moves that happened after hours that people can go and look at if they would like to. But our friend, My Little Tony, Jordan Keffler, did something interesting that shows up under the recent activities page, and he listed 4 guys that he's likely to trade. So I just want to give
Yes.
kind of a spotlight to these position groups, where if you're looking for a QB, tight end, wide receiver, or running back, it looks like Jordan's willing to deal Trevor Lawrence, Dalton Schultz, Jahan Dotson, who has been coming on strong for the Commanders, 2 touchdowns in his last 2 games, and running back James Cook for the Buffalo Bills. So if you're looking to wheel and deal, Jordan might be your guy right now.
There it is. Awesome. Let's get into weekly previews, huh? The weekly matchups.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, and a quick shout out to the Andy Stack. He did this as well. Likely to trade Raheem Mostert and likely to trade George Kittle.
Oh, those are some bigger names, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. Speaking of Andy Stack, let's go right in there. People might want to call this game of the week just based off the records. 2 winning records. The Andy Stack 7-2 versus Ball Hogs 5-4. But as I've been saying all year, Ball Hogs ain't nothing to sweat. He's got Geno Smith in the lineup for whatever reason. He's projected 90 points, but I think he's missing a guy in his lineup here. So Colin versus Andy, that's the first matchup we're going to take a look at if my internet would work and it would pull it up. And
I
now
mean, I can.
watch.
I'll
What is this?
I'll go through Ball Hogs team here because full transparency, peek behind the curtain. I tried to make an offer for Devontae Adams
Wow.
earlier today. Colin rejected it, and I get it. You know, I think that we all do want to see if the grass is truly greener in Vegas now that Josh McDaniels is not in charge of the team, and so maybe he's holding, and you know that's kind of the risk that he's willing to take, I guess, with the trade deadline approaching. I mean, you look at Devontae's last 5 games: 6.5, 3.9, 9.2, 1.6, 5.4. So I'm looking to take the headache off his hands, but you know, he still got him in the starting lineup. And with the collection of pass catchers that he still has that include Keenan Allen, Amon-Ra St. Brown, you know, he's got Jerry Jeudy on the bench.
He
Guys,
definitely has a surplus of those wide receivers. And
yeah, Puka Nacua.
Terrible running backs.
And I was trying to give him Gus Edwards. That was the deal. It was Gus Edwards straight up for
Gus
Devontae
Edwards
Adams.
would immediately be the best running back on his roster.
Yeah. But as you know, to each their own. And so this week he's trotting out Zeke Elliott and Carmel Macchiato once again in the running back position. You know, I think if we were going to try to hyperanalyze the Geno Smith play here, Colin's probably thinking along the same lines as us, where we are saying that you might be playing for your job this week, Geno. So you better go out there and perform well against a team that you're supposed to beat.
Yeah. But
he will need a kicker though to make his squad full this week. Jake Elliott is on a bye for the Eagles. I'm going Andy Stack though. I don't really see the need to go through his team too much. You know, he's right in the hot hands of people like Cole Kmet and flexing 2 tight ends this week with George Kittle in the lineup as well. So Andy's having some fun with it while also kind of sticking true to his guys now that he's got Eckler healthy and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's waiting for Justin Fields to get healthy eventually. I mean, that if that pans out, that's going to be that much better. But yeah, I don't think we need to spend too much time on this. I think, you know, there's the big names with Amon-Ra, Keenan Allen, and Devontae Adams, but it's not enough to overcome Eckler, Kamara. Kmet had a big game, may not replicate that, but George Kittle should have enough volume against Jacksonville. So they got the check marks. We can go.
I will just say, just to put a bow on it, this game is oddly heavy in the Thursday night matchup this week with Colin trotting out the Carolina starting defensive and special teams unit, and then Andy having DJ Moore and Cole Kmet.
Yeah.
So
there's quite a bit of that.
Yeah. So you know, this could start out maybe a little tighter than we think if the Panthers come out and play well tomorrow night, but I don't know. We shall see. I think by Sunday night.
There's a lot of investment in Chicago over there on the Andy Stack.
Yeah, there is, which is odd.
Okay, let's move on along here. Let's go with the K9 unit versus Lamar and Dangerous. Lamar and Dangerous 5-4, K9 unit 3-6. Again, a heartbreaking loss this last week. They need to win to get back into it. They're sticking with Herbert. They got Derrick Henry and Ken Walker. Ken Walker is questionable. We saw that Charbonnet was able to get a few more carries last week, so that's not a good idea. George Pickens, I know you've been harping on him to start him all year, and now that he does start him, it's kind of a little too late.
Here's the thing, though. This was funny, and folks will never know this, but on last week's episode, we did say that we know that we'd been calling for this all year, but on a short week and Kenny Pickett was playing hurt with the rib situation, Tennessee, a pretty decent defense. We were like, I don't think this actually is the week to start George Pickens, and George Pickens gets next to nothing, if not negative points, I think last week. So yeah, he's gotten him back in there because I know Pickens was frustrated after that game. So maybe it's a little bit of the squeaky wheel getting the grease this week. I expect
AJ Brown is on a bye as well.
That as well. Yeah.
And is forced. So that's who he's rolling out. Jordan Addison, was that a fluke game that he had? I think so. A couple weeks ago, still a decent floor, not bad. I mean, we'll see with Dobbs if they can create some more chemistry. On Lou's side, tough divisional game, Dallas or Cleveland versus Baltimore. Cleveland has a good defense, particularly against the run. What is Glow saying? Also, drama with the free me and unfollow of his QB. Oh yeah, George Pickens had some internal drama with
on Instagram. Yeah,
not a good look. But anyhow, back to Lou's squad. I think that his team wins and dies with Lamar. When Lamar scores 20 points, he's getting a win. I don't like the matchup against Cleveland here. So that might be tough, especially the way they won last week against the Seahawks without Lamar. So it's like, why force his hand? Breece Hall against rejuvenated, reinvigorated Las Vegas team. Again, I've never been a fan of Ramondre Stevenson this year as an RB1. So this game is actually a little bit closer than what it maybe looks like on paper.
I also tried to make a play for Nico Collins this week off of Lewis's team. I like that Houston offense, and I'm sure that's why Lewis wants to hold, because that Houston offense looks like it's getting better and better each week. But he's a little bit weak at running backs outside of a guy like Rachaad White, who's just getting a ton of volume, and Breece Hall, who also is getting a lot of volume. But yeah, Gus Edwards was on the block as well there. So
AJ Brown's on a bye, as well as Tyreek Hill is on a bye also. So they're two of their best players, or their best players, are both on bye.
God, two of the best players in fantasy.
Even though I haven't been a big fan of Lou's running backs, I think the numbers, position ranked, he's 20th, Ramondre. Breece Hall is ranked 14th. They're middle of the road. They're not terrible, but the check mark does go to Matt on the running back side, especially if Ken Walker is healthy. This is almost game of the week for me, but I have another matchup in mind. This would be game of the week B. I'm
going Lewis.
You're going Lou. Man, I'm gonna go Matt this week.
You know who I think wins it for Lewis this week? The specialty positions. You look at Micah Parsons going against New York Giants offensive line, and we know that they've been suspect this year. I think Dallas's defense.
Micah Parsons has a big game.
Micah Parsons has a big game. I think the Seahawks play really well against the Commanders at home and get to the quarterback, probably force a couple turnovers. And then
Bass in Denver with the Mile High.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a home game for Buffalo, but even so, I think that Buffalo, they're pissed. They are 5-4, not where that team expected to be. I think they put up a lot of points. So I think Lewis wins on specialists.
You've convinced me. I'll switch to Lou. Sorry, Matt. Okay, now we're gonna skip over to you versus Camille.
Okay. I'll talk about Camille's team a little bit here. He was lacking a quarterback this week with Jalen Hurts on bye, and so he grabs Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, maybe not he's ranked 13, so in a 12-team league, he's a fringe starter, but I think, Camille was probably looking at best available and saw that the Niners are coming off a bye. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for a good Jacksonville team, and it's in Jacksonville, so it still will be a tough game there for Brock, but I understand the thought process there. 2 weeks to prepare, you like that. And then it's kind of the same old story with the running backs, Chuba Hubbard, Dante Foreman. It's just wild how decimated some teams are across our league at the running back position. And then David Montgomery and his flex, so guys that I guess are the number ones on their team, but who are the ceiling is just not there. I know that Dante Foreman's had some splash games. David Montgomery's had some splash games. But yeah, and then when you look at the rest of his team, you're like, where are the rest of the points going to come from? Jamar Chase, questionable. He's going to play. And so he can probably bank on him to be one of his leading scorers this week. Same with Hawkinson, questionable, but he's a gamer. He's going to play, even though the New Orleans does have a good defense. His specialty unit at the bottom should play well. Also, Max Crosby, Cincy's defense against Houston, even though we saw Houston just put up a bunch of points. And then he's got Dallas's kicker. They have a new kicker this year who's been pretty solid. So I like the bottom of his lineup a lot more than the top of his lineup. I'll just say this. I think I'm catching Camille on a good week amidst his hot streak here.
That's exactly how I feel. I think his hot streak. This is another potential game of the week here, because you're both coming in at 3 wins in a row. But I mean, Camille basically, he can only afford to lose one more time if he's hoping to sneak in here, really. Well, actually, because of his points scored, he could get in an even record. But yeah, without Jalen Hurts, who's scoring the majority of his points, and Jalen Waddle, who's been starting to do well.
And I just don't think, he's been holding Charbonnet all year. I don't think he's quite in the position. Zach Charbonnet isn't quite in the position yet to be trusted as a fantasy starter. And so maybe in 2 weeks, that's a much more useful play, but it's just not the case yet.
Well, it's also, I mean, a thing when you're looking at Chuba Hubbard, Donta Foreman, or Devontae, or David Montgomery. We were just talking earlier about some of those plays where your hand is forced.
Right.
I mean, you almost wish that another injury or one of these guys wouldn't play. So, like, you're forced to play Charbonnet because Charbonnet could vulture, like, a touchdown or something.
Sure. He just gets hot for a series, stays
Yeah.
in, and gets, like, 60 yards and a score. Yeah.
Yep. On your side, yeah, I mean, your team's how do we ignore Josh Allen? I guess I keep forgetting about Josh Allen because he kind of started the year a little bit slower, but he is the number one fantasy quarterback, and that's equal to at least CMC in a way. So I should probably bump you on the power rankings.
We'll see after this week. That's okay. What's
You're
done is done.
You're still sticking out with Michael Thomas, even though you just had a goose egg there.
Yeah, it can't get any worse, right?
Can't get any worse. Alexander Madison is the running back who just won't quit, won't die, won't go away. Cam Akers is now injured, so Alexander Madison is the guy there. And man, he had a lot more explosive plays when he was second fiddle to Dalvin Cook than what we've seen from him as a lead back.
Yeah, I don't know what that's for. Yeah,
it's now the second half of the year. They can't rely on Kirk Cousins' arm anymore. So I could see Mattinson really start to trend in more of an impactful way to finish the year. So yeah, I mean, your team,
honestly, that's why I was kind of trying to deal Gus Edwards. I love having Gus Edwards on the team still. I'm happy to still roster him, just because depending on the matchups, I do think I can kind of play the hot red zone hand that he has, even if other guys in that backfield are starting to get more meaningful touches between the 20s. But yeah, between Brian Robinson Jr., Alexander Mattinson, and Gus, it's kind of like, okay, I have room to play two of those guys outside of Travis Etienne each week if I see fit. And so just kind of running the matchups each week.
Yeah, you've found depth at the running back position, and you're sitting Gus this week against Cleveland, which I think is smart. God, you always seem to just trend in the right direction around this time of year. Again, you're not catching Camille on a good week, so I'm picking you to continue the streak here and get your 7th win.
Yeah, now we talked about, IRL trap games. Maybe this is a little bit of a trap game for me, especially depending on what happens with Camille's 2 running backs tomorrow night on Thursday night. I could be in like a 40-point deficit if Chuba Hubbard and Donta Foreman go off.
That's so weird about Camille's running backs, right? We've seen like David Montgomery score 3 touchdowns in a game. We've seen Donta Foreman do the same. So yeah, you kind of have to hold your breath here, but
a little bit. But I still feel good. I love having ETN coming off a bye, even though if it is a tough matchup against the Niners. But again, it's kind of like if there's going to be an opportunity here, ETN's coming off a bye. So
yeah,
they've also had 2 weeks to prepare for that game.
Okay, well, I think we're both still picking you. And then we'll move over to Damn It Bobby versus Kirk Thuggins. I don't know if either of them want to say anything in the chat while we review this matchup, but this is not looking good for Kirk Thuggins in the projections. However, after talking to Derek, and we already see the lineup change, he's got Dak Prescott, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jalen Warren. I already love that 3 a lot more. Chris Olave has not been the same player, but still a decent floor there. Tyler Lockett has not really had his big breakout games as much. But if you look at his trend scoring, it's been every other week, and he's kind of due. And we do think that the Seahawks will have a bounce back home game against the Commanders.
Yeah.
I like the lineup that Derek and Max have rolled out there.
Listen, their back is against the wall. Like it's now or never. We just talked about how they could still make a push for that last playoff spot if they have some things happen for them ahead of them in the standings. They have to win though for them to be in that position.
Yeah, I mean he could be just a one week and done in the 12th spot. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Mhm. I will say Bobby's team is healthy right now. I like a lot of their matchups this week. Joe Mixon is looking stronger and stronger each week. Now, I know he didn't go off against Buffalo last week, but he still put up 15 points, and that's a good defense, even though I know the Buffalo defense didn't perform well fantasy-wise last week, but Joe Mixon still got it done. And then you just got guys like Evan Ingram trending in the right direction, DeAndre Hopkins trending in the right direction, Marquise Hollywood Brown, someone who he's held, all of a sudden gets Kyler Murray back now this week. So like a lot to like if you're Damon Bobby right now.
Yeah, I've been harping on his wide receivers all year, and you just made a good case for all of them. And he does go get Baker Mayfield to stack on top of Chris Godwin. So I may have been too harsh on Bobby. And you had kind of mentioned this when I was gone about there are some guys that I'm harder on, some guys I'm softer on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that is. But Bobby's I've been both to Bobby. I've been hard on Bobby and I've been soft on him.
I mean, you've kept him high in the power rankings amidst kind of a mediocre year so far, I feel like. But now this is where he can start to make you look good. And I think he wins this week. And then if he wins a couple more weeks and locks down one of these playoff spots early, you'll feel justified. He'll feel great. And I think that, that ship starts to leave port this week because I think he gets a dub.
Yeah. So even without Tua being on a bye, and even with a much better lineup on Kirk Thuggins' side, I do still think that Bobby gets the win this week as well.
And this could be, I mean, we just saw this happen with Lamar going against the Seahawks, and now Seahawks have a better defense, and it shouldn't have happened the way it did happen last week. But you could see Dak Prescott having, you could see the Dallas Cowboys scoring a ton of points against the Giants this week, and it not necessarily reflecting in a great fantasy week for Dak Prescott.
Yeah, because the defense scores are running the ball, just not necessary. Yeah. Okay, let's go to Chundarella story versus the Commissioners.
Okay.
Chun and I just made a trade for DK for Najee, and so we get to immediately see who's going to win that trade 1 week after, and I'll probably lose, but it's not like Green Bay has that good of a defense. So I've got a couple Steelers now in the lineup and on the squad immediately. Najee and Deontay Johnson playing Green Bay this week.
That's a plus matchup for both of them.
That seems like a better matchup for me. Michael Pittman has been just a massive target monster all year. I mean, he's gotten double digits in 5 different games. That's half of the ones. His lowest target share has been 5. So double digits over the last month as far as points. So I felt, and I have CD Lamb in the flex. I love my team. Cameron Byron let me down a little bit. Bynum let me down a little bit last week, but even with Pacheco and DeAndre Swift on a bye, I feel good about Saquon and Najee. And then CJ Stroud coming off of his major thing. Again, I'm very confident. That's why I'm 2 in the power rankings.
Yeah, I mean, if you win this week, it'll be a real testament to your depth because you didn't make any move on aside from the defensive unit, right? Picking up Miami this week on waivers, and you have, and including the Dolphins, you have 4 of your 5 bench spots on a bye this week. So you're kind of just throwing the whole kitchen sink and Morgan, everything that you had in your arsenal. Those guys are out there. And so talk about kind of having a forced hand, it's not like somebody like Deontay or Pittman who has had a stint on your bench. You don't have that option this week. So you're playing them. And I think it's the right time to play all of these guys. CJ Stroud, we'll see if he can repeat 470 yards passing. Probably not. But at the same time, you feel great about having the rookie quarterback on your fantasy team. He's going to continue to throw the ball. And we already talked about their struggles running the ball. So yeah, I like your team right now. Thank
you. Chun's team, I think, again, similar. We've seen similar to Max and Derek's team, seen a trend in the right direction. I did move Chun up to the 11th spot. I am catching him with Travis Kelce on a bye, which is good for me. But Bijan Robinson is just got to be the most frustrating player in fantasy. But I don't know what his average draft position was, but Chun was just set on taking him in the first round.
I think that's probably where he went.
So we talked about Chun last week, and so people didn't get to hear it. I'll say it again. And I talked to Chun in person on Sunday. The deal with Chun's teams is he goes all wrong in the draft, right? His draft strategy is him trying to outsmart everyone, trying to get cute and fancy, and then it just kind of screws him for the whole year. Now, he's made some trades where it looks a little bit better, but especially with Jonathan Taylor coming back, it seems better. But, I mean, this is a solid lineup for compared to what he's got. 49ers defense against Jacksonville. It could be a trap game. I mean, he just put up 128 points. Would have beat me last week. Nothing's guaranteed. I don't know.
I think Morgan, he is also in a similar position, I think, where because of, he's got, I don't know, again, maybe this is Morgan just trying to be too smart. He's got Leonard Fournette, a free agent, on his bench right now. And so it's like, okay, maybe for some team stretch run, Fournette gets signed.
Now, Fournette was supposed to be signed by, I think, Buffalo.
Okay.
Signed by Buffalo. I'll double check that, but that's him doing that's why he picked up Kareem Hunt, trying to
Yeah, but look, just looking at the other guys on his bench, like he's not going to play the aforementioned Kareem Hunt on the road against Baltimore. I think that's the right play. And then he's got Tyler Algier, and he's kind of getting away from this running back split thing that we've seen because of the ability to play Jonathan Taylor now and not like try to just get all the touches from one team's backfield. And so he also is just kind of playing the hand that he was dealt, and it looks about as good as it has throughout the course of this season. And so if you're Morgan, you are definitely feeling good. I think you are, you're maybe set up for a bit of a trap game. I mean, he's probably one or two positions away. Your guys all have that safe floor, but I don't really know who is going to boom.
I'm hoping it's Najee Harris, right?
Maybe Najee. Right. Maybe Najee booms for you. Maybe it's Michael Pittman booms for you in that early game. I think that's over in like Frankfurt or something. Is that early game on Sunday?
Yeah.
But you look at Morgan's team and you're like, this could be a 2-touchdown game for DK. And I know that would be a little bit of sour grapes the week that you trade him. I still think in the long run you did the right thing, but like Bijan Robinson might have a game. Jonathan Taylor might have a game. Like it could just be one of those weeks for Morgan. I don't know. I'm inclined to pick him, to be honest.
It's a lot closer than the projections. I'm going to stick with myself thinking that I just have a higher ceiling with a lot of my players. The difference, even though it's a tough matchup against Cleveland, I think Mark Andrews is matchup proof. I think the Bills against Denver, we're going to see Buffalo play well at home against a shitty Denver team. Well, not shitty, but not very good, especially on the road. So I think that's the difference for me. I'm going to pick myself, obviously.
I think I'm going to go with Morgan.
Fair enough. And that's going to take us to
game
of
the week. So that leaves us. Go ahead.
Well, I was just waiting I thought we were going to get bells and whistles from the.
Yeah, he's still eating whatever he was eating.
Yeah. Okay.
It's working on my end. I don't know why it's not coming through.
Did you get the Hawk Talk earlier?
Oh yeah. It played the whole time.
Huh? We don't hear it. Okay.
It's odd.
That's all right. Appreciate you being here.
It saves me editing. So
yeah, there you go. Okay, so who was Tank Bigsby versus my little Tony? I just impromptu picked this as game of the week because one is 5-4, the other is 4-5. They've been struggling to just get over the hump. If Blaine wins, he's now 6-4. That's huge. My little Tony, it's just a lot can swing in this week. It's crucial for both of them. Take me through Kefler's team right now.
Yeah, the other reason why I think this warrants game of the week is that as the lineups are set right now, we have a 50-50 projection for the two teams. So you like to see that. No one's really getting the edge here. Sam Howell, we got to talk about this guy as a legitimate fantasy quarterback. I'm sure other syndicates have been doing so, but like he's 7th ranked quarterback on the year. There's nobody behind him. Like, he has the free agency to sling the freaking ball. I mean, you look at this guy's passing attempts and
Wow. Yeah. 45, 52, 45, 50. Wow. There's a
yeah,
lot.
he chucks the ball around the yard.
Jesus.
And then, you look at Tony Pollard. We talked about game script in that matchup between the Cowboys and the Giants. Tony Pollard's probably going to get a lot of usage as they just try to control the clock and time of possession, and while also putting up points. Aaron Jones, I don't love that play right now just because the Steelers have a good defense. I know he had a good week last week and saw a lot of volume, but he's also a little banged up in practice. But somebody like Garrett Wilson is just finding a way to get it done. Amari Cooper's finding ways to get it done, albeit both of those guys have tougher matchups this week. But then like Sam Laporta, the Giants defense against the Raiders that we talked about, there's a couple of positions here that I feel like could really pop. And then James Cook, it's been a down week. It's been a down couple of weeks here for him, honestly, 7.8 and 5.9 his last 2 weeks. So you look for him to get back on track. I probably see Jordan ending up right around his projection this week, which I know isn't like some great revelation to say I think this team's going to do what they're projected to do, but so many times we see teams either overperform or underperform. I think this is a case where Jordan probably puts up 115 points, maybe like 107 to 115, and then it's just a case of can Blaine score more? Yeah,
and as well as Blaine did last week, he had Jordan Love in last week as well. Jordan Love's been his quarterback all year, who started the year well, has now been pretty mediocre. Josh Jacobs has an uptick, but New York Jets defense is pretty solid. Dameon Pierce is not healthy, playing in Cincinnati. His only other available running back would be Keaton Mitchell, who is due for an uptick in touches, but has to play Cleveland. So there's a forced hand opportunity there for his RB2. I'd kind of offered Blaine Zach Moss. I don't know if he's still listening, but that's still on the table. We do like Diggs against Denver. That's great. We do like Tank Dell to make catches against Cincy. We love Dalton Kincaid, right? We love Dalton Kincaid, and I know Blaine loves a Buffalo tight end. From Dawson Knox to Dalton Kincaid, he's going with the Buffalo tight end. So that's solid. Christian Kirk against San Francisco. I could see Christian Kirk sneaking in, getting some volume catches underneath, more of a high reception game. So that it doesn't scare me that he's playing San Francisco as much as it should. We love
Blaine wins it on the defensive and specialty positions. Especially this week.
Kind of how he's been winning it all year. Dallas's defense against the Giants, they put up 36 in week 1. Now they get to play them at home, and we know it's just Saquon Barkley versus the Cowboys.
Yes. Yep.
And that could be the difference.
Yeah, and Aloy Khan for Jacksonville. Again, we've talked about that game, I feel like, quite a bit. The Niners and the Jaguars, both teams coming off a bye. It's going to be Foyside's responsibility to track McCaffrey coming out of the backfield as a runner, as a receiver. And so he's going to be involved in a ton of defensive plays there. And just also be around the ball. He's always around the ball. So if something happens, he's usually going to be on the receiving end of a forced fumble or a tipped ball or something of that nature. So I look for Blaine to probably score 30 to 40 points just from his specialty positions alone this week.
And that should be the difference in this.
It honestly should be. Yeah. But it should be a great game. But I'm taking who was Tank Bigsby.
I'm gonna take him as well. I have him higher in the power rankings. I think there's more pop on his side of the lineup here. So, and
this just creates, if the teams that have a winning record now can continue to win, then that's going to only propel them further. But if a team like My Little Tony, if Jordan drops a game now all of a sudden and he's 4-6, and a team like Morgan or Max/Derek can win this week, and they're all of a sudden one game back of Jordan, it gets a little interesting here coming down the stretch.
Who's going to be that 12th seed?
Who will be the 12th seed? Who actually stands a chance or at least is giving themselves a shot to potentially sneak into the playoffs? Like, yeah, it's a big week.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. That's gonna conclude this episode.
What a fun week. What a fun
longer
episode.
one, fun to do it live. Always fun to do it live. I think we're getting
Get back in here, Minister. Get back in here.
We're getting better at doing it live. We certainly had some league members join us in the chat, so appreciate you guys showing up and showing support. Definitely shout out to our Minister of Media for setting this up for us. As much as I like to yell at him and give him crap, I love the guy. So thank you, Max, for hosting us tonight.
Of course. Thank you for a great episode.
You look quite cozy. What have you been doing this whole time? You
Well,
got a little-
I was eating a baked potato earlier.
Ooh.
In our own Kamish's image there. I loved that we were able to bring on people. Just send them a link and they jump into the show. That's
the fresh blood, right? The two new guys.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. I wish some other league members that I reached out to would have at least texted me back.
Ooh.
We've only been friends for 20 years, but that is what it is.
Yeah, well, that's not surprising.
And there's multiple of you, and you're listening, and you know who you are.
Damn. Well, but when push comes to shove, they don't want to leave the league. Right?
Yeah.
They want to protect us forever, but they can't participate a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, maybe we need to just keep doing
What do they
episodes like this.
What do they have? Lives? What do they have? Children or something?
No, even the guys with kids, they're in here. So shit. Most
Golly.
of them, I should say.
Yeah, I guess we didn't give them enough notice, but yeah, I mean, we could do this live more often. We'll have to maybe try to schedule out another one coming up soon. But that's the Week 10 preview. Drop a like, get some comments, text the group chat. Let me know your grievances. Set your lineups. Yeah.
Set your lineups.
All right. Peace.